Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Forge, where you can get your daily dose of Realogy and reclaim your awareness. Today's topic in our fifth video is going to be demystifying terminology and terminology baggage. I've mentioned a few times in these videos here this famous tale of the Tower of Babel. And as the story goes, the language of humanity was confused and divided from one into many. People separated into their respective groups based on speaking the same language. Language differences were used to divide in this instance, and by similar language, people were grouped together, sowing the seeds for national identities. Being able to speak the same language can go a long way towards uniting a people, and it can also be used for a number of other things. Impressing a set of shared terminology on a group can also go a long way towards indoctrination and controllable or predictable behaviors. Very, very few of the ideals and opinions that we hold originated from within, come from our own mind. They mostly come from without. Our teachers, our parents, our pastors, our mentors, our bosses, and many, many other things. They usually come from our environment around us and not so much from our own mindset. A single word can carry a collection of associated ideas, norms, restrictions, and limitations. How many times have you been in a situation that reminds you of a book that you've read or a movie that you've seen, and immediately upon mentioning this book or this movie to another person that's familiar with the work and that's in the same present situation, and just by mentioning that book or that movie, a lot has been communicated just by that simple reference? This is terminology baggage. My own word, my own phrase rather. And you can manage to say a lot more with a lot less by uttering a word that has a lot of known associations. This is the reason why we use tools like vocabulary in the first place. And like any tool, it can also be misused. Inevitably, we will establish some new terminology and new word associations on this journey, as well as redefine some that we already know. I'm guilty of having ideological exchanges with people, and upon hearing them express an idea, even an idea that I mostly agree with, if not totally agree with, I'll still resist them because the words that they use, right? Due to the terminology baggage of their choice of words, I'll resist the idea or reiterate it, that same idea back to them with a fresh set of terminology that sounds foreign. And it's because it's uncomfortable. It's because it makes you kind of take pause and think about, why did you say the same thing back with a different set of words? And then it makes you question, okay, well, these are the words that were changed. What's wrong with those words, right? And it feels uncomfortable when you start to undo that indoctrination, but this is what allows us to create a clean slate within which we can formulate our own ideas and not just take on ideas that have been handed to us or told that we had to uphold or live our lives by based on somebody else's derivation and somebody else's experiences. An early step in claiming your own empowerment can be to adopt and to use a word of your own intelligent derivation, not just some blah, 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 right? And a word of your own intelligent derivation, something that actually derives from a real world use case and is a reasonable sounding word. It has a real definition behind it. Or using another established word for some new purpose that you've defined. That is, after all, how all words have come to be in the first place. If I challenge dogmatic ideas on terminology or redefine something established, I can see in people how unnerving it is, and I understand. I'll ask somebody, do you believe that God is intelligent? Do you believe that God originated on earth? Right? And with the expected answers of yes, God is intelligent, and no, God did not originate on earth, I'll update that terminology to something that's more compatible with modern understanding. I'll inform them that they've just classified God as a non-terrestrial intelligence. Now, as expected, many people aren't comfortable with this. It teaches us a lot when we delve into why it is uncomfortable. That definition, that new categorization is not untrue. So why does it bother us so much? If you think about how you define and understand God, what words come to mind? While love and forgiveness will definitely find their way into that list, there's also a lot of other words that get included. Fear, guilt, sin, heaven, hell, judgment, angels, devils, demons, church, sacrifice, laws, religion, righteousness and unrighteousness, holy and unholy, and a whole lot more. We can go on and on for days. These are the kind of words that pop into your mind. These are the words you associate with your definition of and your terminology of God. Our discomfort comes from the potential thought of losing all of our accepted word associations to the word God by changing it out for something else, and the fear of what new word associations may take their place. This is precisely why I've bothered modifying terminology at all. We have associated certain feelings and concepts with our terminology of this word God that I have explained are spurious, are piled on by men who want us depleted of our resources, and predictably controllable. I'd promote unnecessary challenges to these developing ideals if I maintain terminology that supports the indoctrination that I'm seeking to undo. I'll concede that while a non-terrestrial intelligence can be used to identify God, it can also fit the definition of a whole lot more. I know that. And for this reason, some might find that offensive because they feel like God has to have a unique name, title, definition, or explanation that doesn't fit any other being. I get that, right? My intent is not to offend. It's just to challenge our thought process, to discover how our subconscious is programmed to violently defend mainstream terminology. For brevity's sake and to remove the distraction of offended sensitivities, I'll reinforce the lesser used creator or source in replacement of using the word God, because again, I do not want those word associations that we presently have assigned to the word God. So I won't use non-terrestrial intelligence. I'll use creator or I'll use source, right, for that purpose. But we'll labor to populate this term now with baggage fitting our own paradigm, our newer understanding, our corrected understanding. Our desire is to leave the baggage and the indoctrination that comes with other terminology. The terminology change also presents more palatable to those accepting of the truth about life elsewhere in the universe. It opens the door to scientists who have not found what they consider proof of the Creator's existence, but presents parameters of an investigation that they can better tolerate as we pursue harmony with all of mankind. This new set of terminology may isolate us from those who are content to operate or remain in the control mechanisms that are already at work, or of those who are emboldened to devalue life based on scriptural examples of God doing the same. But it also aligns us with those collectively seeking a more complete definition of reality based on present knowledge, while not dismissing our own spirituality or enlightenment or scientific comprehension. Yes, they can all cohabitate. I'm proof of it. Think about words like technology. Technology is the creation, use, or application of technical knowledge. Biology is the study of life or living things, with the root word bio meaning life. Psychology is the study of the mind and its mental states and processes. The logy, L-O-G-Y part is used to name a science or a field of study after collecting the bodies of knowledge on that topic. This channel will focus on increasing our awareness concerning the various truths of our reality, which are not readily promoted by our mainstream. We'll call this field of study Realogy. It will go hand in hand with this naming of our belief set as empowerment spirituality. Now consider the baggage attached to some of the newer faction names that are starting to emerge. When you hear New Age, some people think butterflies, rainbows, and LSD. When you hear enlightened, some people think highly self-regarding, isolated, Illuminati, secret societies, mystery schools, New World Order. When you hear woke, you think about anti-establishment, conscious, social justice warrior, race warrior, conspiracy theorist, and a number of other things. People can't help but categorizing one another, right? Just tagging on to an existing category may automatically associate you to ideologies you don't support. I've adopted new terminology because I want a clean slate that can define our mindset without the derogatory references, and while it also allows us to take responsibility for our own development. I also want to urge caution though, because a name or designation can provide convenience by summarizing your set of views into a single word, but I do this with great hesitation because group categorization is also a strong catalyst for isolation, for division, for judgment, or forming religions. I want to start by clarifying that the identifiers I've named should be polarly opposed to such results. The study of Realogy, or adherence to empowerment spirituality, is intended to be all-encompassing, as much as the word humanity is. We've all had lies fed to us concerning our history, our race, our archaeology, our astronomy, and a whole lot more. Your expertise, anything and everything you bring to the table, is needed since Realogy can encompass it all. We have to realize that it bears no fruit to allow more designations to differentiate ourselves from someone who almost thinks the same, but not quite. We have to realize that it bears no fruit to come up with a name for an opposite belief group. If they think for themselves, they're already cut from the same cloth and are with us. Yes, even if they disagree with your ideas or the ones we propose here on this channel. We need to rise above the offense and rather encourage others to bring their differing ideas into the same forum to figure out how their contribution can make our comprehensive understanding even more complete. You can pursue empowerment spirituality as a Hindu, as a Buddhist, as a Muslim, a Christian, an atheist, and more. All it requires is dropping the belief that the Creator seeks to eradicate any part of humanity, especially anyone not like you, and any debasing conclusions about human weakness, inherent sinfulness, being incapable of doing good on your own, needing to wait for someone to correct your world, and so on. Our goals are simply to become more aware of everything and to continually push the limits of human freedom, benevolence, capability, contentment, and understanding. There is some terminology worth revisiting to clarify. The word vibration. We hear this used a lot, especially in some YouTube channels and again some of the newer age crowds, right? This word vibration, the core definition outside of the spiritual and kind of new age circles. Vibration means oscillating or reciprocating or some other periodic motion relative to a state of equilibrium. A supernatural emanation or general emotional feeling are also accepted definitions of this word. The word frequency, another word that we hear used a lot in these circles, and it's regularly occurring events in a unit of time. So these two terms in scientific circles go hand in hand, but you hear them used a lot in new age or spiritual circles, and it's just kind of accepted the way that it's being used. You're supposed to kind of pick up on the meaning. If you look at this picture of a line that shows a frequency, and if the overall length of time that this red line is traveling is 1 second, the number of oscillations, the time that it takes to go from its point of origin and come back, go from the point of origin and come back, it's traveled 2.5 times. So if it goes 2.5 times in 1 second, that makes a frequency of 2.5 hertz. Now, how do you hear these words used outside of that scientific definition? Currently, you can raise or lower your vibration. You can increase or decrease your frequency. Literally applied, it sounds like you're actually altering the rate at which your cells vibrate. How does an instruction for me to adjust this rate, this frequency or vibration, how does it actually apply? Do I focus on shaking my body very fast? I haven't been consciously responsible for any vibration or frequency of my cells up until the point that somebody tells me I can change my frequency or my vibration. So this is a word that becomes kind of hard to connect to something meaningful, maybe just for people that are more literally minded like I am. So obviously I'm not bright enough for this vague instruction to hold the meaning for me in the way that it was originally provided, because I'm thinking, how do I change or modify something that I've never been conscious of or tried to do before? And it wasn't until I perceived a different description or reflecting on the terminology that it started to make sense. This concept of a push and pull came to my mind, and it suddenly made sense. And this was later confirmed while reading the Law of One. Law of One discusses what they call radiating and absorbing during questions 80.17 and 93.4. These are the 17th questions in the 80th session and the 4th question in the 93rd session for those not familiar with the work. And it says, I quote, radiates or absorbs the love and the light of the Creator. That which is positive is radiant, and that which is negative is absorbent. If your body is the reference point, as we talked about in this definition of vibration, if your body is the point of reference of equilibrium, And your vibration can be thought of in terms of a push and a pull, or radiation and absorption. The push and the pull is not referring to physical forces exerted with your arms or your legs. The push is how you affect your environment. What do you radiate? What do you give? What do you do? What do you project? What do you send off, emanate, say, demonstrate? The pull is how you are affected by your environment. What do you absorb, assimilate, internalize, consume, hear, believe, receive, retain, or remember? Increasing your vibration refers to you increasing the goodness, quote unquote, of your push and your pull. In the service to others' polarity here meaning your preference or your disposition, the goal is to radiate love, light, positivity, forgiveness, compassion, and the like to others at every opportunity. Similarly, you want to only allow your being to be exposed to and absorb what keeps you feeling better. By better, I mean healthy, loved, needed, and encouraged, and capable of continuing to radiate positively, as stated above. You hear a lot of references back to the movie The Matrix. Now, do yourself a favor and avoid the easy association with the movie. There's a lot of terminology baggage here. For instance, when you hear a New Age reference to The Matrix, it's not suggesting that your real physical body is plugged into a machine being used as a battery, while your consciousness is being deceived into living in a fake dream world. The meaning here is that the physical world you're experiencing is very real and very much alive, but you're prevented from remembering your true nature as something more. In that sense, this physical world is considered an illusion from the perspective of your eternal and immortal soul having much more capability and understanding than you are presently experiencing and accessing in your physical form. You hear terms, and this is probably going back more specifically to Law of One, but it is a phrase that kind of gets thrown around, and other people that I've talked to that have listened to it have kind of gotten thrown around by these two phrases here. So I just want to spend a little bit of time on these as well. The concept of space-time. Okay, this is easier when you comprehend space-time as how we presently experience reality. What is transpiring in all of space at this point in time? You can only act in the present. You can remember the past, you can guess at the future, but you can only affect where you presently are. And in other locations, there are real-time factors actively interacting with one another in space-time. Now, in contrast to that, another concept that's presented to us in the Law of One as another way of experiencing or viewing time and reality is that of time-space. Now, time-space is admittedly a more abstract and difficult concept. It's easier if you consider this to be the way that you can perceive the creator knowing the end from the beginning. In contrast to space-time, time-space is to view all that happens in a particular space across all of time. Imagine looking at the location of your home from some other remote location. Now, turn back the time dial on that very spot to eternity past. As you are turning that dial back and you go back a few years, you're going to see the previous occupants of your current home. A few years more, you may see the construction of your home. Go back far enough, you'll eventually see untouched roughage and no sign of human presence at all. Turn that same dial forward in time, and you may see who will inhabit your home after you pass on or move away. A bit more, you may see your home is renovated, maybe torn down or destroyed in favor of some other project to go up in its place. Depending on how you progress, eventually you'll see what happens to that home at the end of time as we know it. Now, all the while, you're able to view that location of your home throughout all of time, but you are unable to interact with it. How fair would it be, after all, to have such control over time and the events that occur within? Law of One seems to reinforce that there is a law in perceiving time-space that prevents one from interacting with the witnessed events. It's my perception that this is what enables phenomena like remote viewing or prophecy. Now, more terminology will be reviewed in later vids as needed, and you are welcome to put requests for more terminology that's kind of used in spiritual or New Age circles, and we can labor to both understand the root or the origin of those things, and as well as come up with better replacement words where it's applicable. I will be specifically focusing on heaven and hell in a later vid, and we will talk about where that mentality originates from. I'll cover both where my opinion of these topics were while in the ministry, and as well as where they are right now, having looked at other sources and come to what I feel is a better understanding of the nature of this thought and this topic. Okay, but these are things we will address in later detail in another session. Please be mindful of our goal to help improve understanding and empower you. Change is never easy, but it is necessary. So let's go through it together. Thank you all for joining us again. And until next time, remember, seek truth, reclaim your knowledge, your existence, and your reality.